Good evening, everyone. For nearly 100 years, Belgium has played host to a rotating circus of Formula One circuits, and the one that we are at tonight in the form of Spa-Francorchamps is arguably the grandest of them all. Not just, of course, within Belgium, but also within the entirety of the Formula One and World Motor Racing calendar. The track tonight will cause a lot of consternation, a lot of battling, and a lot of opportunities for overtakes, and that's just within Tier 1. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Tier 1 here for round 4 of Season 23. And we've got a one-shot qualifying coming up for you in just a moment's time in wet weather conditions. But joining me in the comms box, I'm delighted to say for the first time of 2 this season, is my good mate Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
Yeah, good evening everyone. It's a rarity when you get to be together in commentary, Jack, so this should be a bit of fun. And looking at the weather, it's going to be even more fun when we go boat racing in Belgium.
Well, funnily enough, actually, the Ardennes has well been known for supplying balsa wood to initial boats in the 1930s and 40s, to be fair. So there is a bit of history with that. And the qualifying session is due to get underway. I'm going to very quickly tell you the format. One-shot qualifying, sprint race, followed by another one-shot qualifying and the feature race. So the first qualifying session, I'm going to let Jordan take us on board with a lap. He'll tell us who in just a moment's time, and then I'll get to do one in a little bit. But off we go. And Jordan, who are you picking?
We're on Beyond the Boer, so we'll go with him. Up towards La Source. Normally in the dry you can brake very late, but 100 metres in this damp sort of intermediate conditions. So watch out for the gravel trap on the outside, newly installed for 2025. Down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Eau Rouge, the flick left, up the hill. You could go for, oh my word, Bjorn's had a massive moment through that. No, he hasn't. That is a proper game glitch and a half. That looked like he absolutely tanked into a barrier. We're going to rejoin him on the Camel Straight then, where DRS would normally be open, hit the brakes into Lecom. The curbs are a lot nicer on this year's game in comparison to previous. Malmedy, normally a little lift off to get it bedded in, but again, we're in the wet. Down into Bruel, very tricky, off camber, downhill braking. Just got to wait for the throttle to come in, and then you go down to No Name, or what used to be called Speaker's Corner, as we found out today. Again, gravel trap on the outside, down to the legendary Pouhon, and again, this is a spot where you could find yourself in trouble by running out on the curb a little bit too much between the two apexes, and then down to La Fania chicane, one of the best chicanes I think in the world, because it's just so flowing. Let it roll through the first part, pick up the throttle, then let it roll through the second, and gradually bring it all back in as you head down towards campus. Down to fourth again, just waiting to pick up the throttle as you then head through Stavelot, which would normally be flat. Again, all these new gravel traps around in Spa-Francorchamps from a safety perspective. Kerpel Frere, absolutely flat, and then all the way up to the legendary Blanchimont. Absolutely flat, even in wet conditions by the looks of that. Unbelievable pace as you then head down towards the bus stop chicane. As me and Jack were saying earlier, before we started, 20 years since this chicane got changed. But out of there, straight as you can, across the line, it's going to be Sydney on pole position with Bjorn in second, Jeremy Clarkson third, Matty and Radu completes the top 5. A little bit of a spread, but is that because potentially we have dry weather for the race?
Yeah, perhaps there is. It's always about adapting to the weather conditions, especially in a one-shot qualifying. You never always get to see the best of the drivers' abilities, you could argue, but then you'd also on the flip side counter back that this is the best time for drivers to show off all of their skills. But it's a Dutch 1-2 with Sydney and Björn on the front row of the grid. Jeremy Clarkson, the race 1 winner, of course, on the second row alongside SFR Matty. Great qualifying for him. Ruddo and Ash Cheever on row 3 with DJ Madman. Great qualifying from Madman to put himself on the 4th row of the grid alongside Callum. Then it's Owen and the War Islander in 9th and 10th, with Nitro in 11th, ARL not setting a representative lap time, and Pars DNFing or choosing to return to the garage, not setting an actual time at all.
It must be noted, obviously, there's a couple of T2 drivers in here which won't count in the results, so it's going to be interesting to see how they realistically fight with Tier 1. We know those guys won't want to sort of interrupt the Tier 1 sort of flow, but they'll also won't want to get out of the way, because at the end of the day, it's still a race.
Yeah, it is still a race, and they'll love the opportunity to mix it up with the Tier 1 drivers. One of the cars bouncing on the grid. I don't know if you could see that, Jordan. In fact, they all are on the left-hand side on my screen. They're all just bopping up and down. Like, you can see it on the stream on the left-hand side, the extreme left. There's a bunch of cars just bopping up and down for some reason.
Raring to go for the sprint race of 8 laps here in Spa. And the tricky thing here is going to be your tyres, what tyres you select for this sprint race, because 8 laps doesn't sound like a lot, because you think when we go back to like the Red Bull Ring, you get sort of 12 laps in there. It's only 4 laps less, but this circuit is 7 kilometres long. It's absolutely massive, and trying to keep your tyres for the whole 7 kilometres across 8 laps is going to be quite difficult if you're going to pick the sort of softer compounds.
Yeah, they will notice it, the drivers, as well, during the qualifying lap. If we get a dry qualifying session, the drivers are going to notice that the front left and the front right especially wear quite strongly around this Belgian circuit. So tyre degradation is a big factor here in Spa that the drivers are going to have to try and do their best to navigate. Matty Rudd, good to see you in the comments there, just saying, as always, Ruddo for the win. I'd expect him as his brother, Jordan, to be just saying hope he crashes or something, that brotherly love that people typically tend to have.
Yeah, it's normally the way brothers go, but
nice to have a change.
Yeah. I think Denmark's unfortunately ended up in a McLaren, but that's more down to the fact that he joins during the one-shot qualifying, I think.
But it's good to have him in, the Swede, back in the championship, back in Tier 1 again for the first time. He's just said, he has actually just followed up there, Joe, didn't you, by saying that. In fact, you can see him, his pit box is there, he's next to the McLaren, so you can see the little Swedish flag in the right-hand side of your screen. Jordan alluded to it before in terms of tyre choice. That's going to be quite critical with the wear around here. I don't think anyone's going to be brave enough to use the softs unless they want to do a Fernando Alonso from the weekend and have a glory lap at the front and then fade all the way back down. But this is... I'm fascinated to see how this goes, really, because it is the longest track of the year on the calendar in F1, but it also, Jordan, with it being the sprint, tyre allocation from what they selected earlier is going to have a big impact into the main race. Yeah,
you kind of have to try and plan accordingly for it. I mean, the only saviour in that respect is if we have had in the past where the game sort of glitches out between the sprint race and the main qualifying. Hopefully we don't have that, because I quite like the idea of potentially someone taking a softer compound and maybe sacrificing a sprint race to go for the bigger points in the main race.
And of course, with the championship being the way that it is at the moment, I'm sure Jordan will run through the championship standings in a little bit. With the way that the championship is poised, with Sydney at the front currently, Ruddo not too far away in close proximity, the Ferrari drivers will be debating what to do next as we sit on the grid getting ourselves ready to go for the main race. All the drivers are under the instruction, do not press ready up until they've been told otherwise, because we want to make sure everything is right, and we don't necessarily want to have to go through a lobby reset, and then, as Jordan just into that, in terms of the tyre strategy then gets reset and it puts everyone back on an even playing field. So we just want to get things going in one go and progress all the way through tonight without any problems.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, a sprint race weekend actually should take less time than a normal.
In theory.
Race weekend, in theory. Although around Spa it could be quite tight because of the lap length. Yeah, I mean, Spa-Francorchamps, built in 1921, hosted a number of unofficial championship races, and then hosted its first official one in 1950. Where Juan Manuel Fangio led Alfa 1-2 with Nina Farina. And as you very rightly remembered, Jack, Rossi here in a Talbot, finishing the podium.
I mean, trying to explain to people who are young about a Talbot Lego being a Formula One car is a bit like explaining how NASA was able to land Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon with a processor that couldn't even power up, well, a magnetic door lock. I think people really do struggle with that because the evolution of Formula One has been so immense over the years. You know, I think a lot of people really do actually underestimate the progression of speed. And I think nowadays, if someone said, okay, here you go, here's a Talbot T26C, and line it up next to one of, let's say, the current championship leader, the Mercedes, and the W Series, not the actual defunct W Series, I mean the W Series of cars that they have, it'd be like night and day. So Spa's played a big host to that over the years, like you say, and I'm really curious to see how everybody gets on. But there is an outlier in the pack, Jordan. DJ Madman, the only one to go for the hard tyres. Everyone else on the mediums.
Yeah, I do sense everyone maybe trying to save a set of hard tyres for the race, or at least an extra set of hard tyres potentially for the race. But you're saying, obviously, talking about the championship, the man in fifth, sorry, Ruddo, he is the championship leader in Tier 1 by just 2 points to his teammate Sydney. 43 plays 41. Bjorn has 30 points. Pars has 28, ARL 26. So after the Ferraris, it's very, very close. But what that has meant is that the Ferraris have double the points of anyone else. In the constructors, they've got 84 to the Racing Bulls 42. Sauber's 41, Red Bull have 39. And Haas have 17. That's your top 5 in both championships. But Sydney looking to overhaul his teammate in the very first race of the night.
Yeah, definitely, that is the case. Ruddo's just reprimanded me, actually, for saying that he's not leading the championship. But in truth, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy winding him up. So, we've got quite a split in the field. Callum's in 8th place, and then Owen is only now just hurtling towards the final chicane in 9th place. And there's another McLaren, Denmark, who was actually just saying that he's had some problems with his force feedback. So let's hope he gets those sorted before we go into the main race, which is in the dry weather conditions. So just because Sydney and Bjorn are 1 and 2 doesn't mean it'll end that way. Let's not, of course, forget about Jeremy Clarkson on the second row of the grid. He knows how to win a race this season. I'm excited to see how he gets on. But the green flags are flying in the background. And we've got 14 drivers here for the first race of the week in Tier 1. The 5 red lights come on now. And the race is live here from Spa. Looks like a good start off the front row for Sydney. And Jeremy Clarkson's going to be alongside him into the part of the corner, but he's not quite there. In fact, Bjorn's had a great launch off the corner. What a move that is for Bjorn. He takes the lead of the race from Sydney. Jeremy Clarkson was looking like he was threatening for second. No longer the case because of the natural inclination of the corner. Ruddo's gone down 1 into 6th place. Owen's in 7th. At the minute, as they all now blast towards the Kemmel Straight, and here comes Sydney, and here comes Jeremy Clarkson. They're going to be 3 wide. They're all moving across the track. Jeremy Clarkson's on the inside. They come into the chicane, and Jeremy goes into the lead, and Sydney has dropped from 1st to 3rd. There's a Racing Bull off the road. It looks like Ash Tube as Ruddo tries to hold his position on the outside from Owen, and he cements that as they come into Bruel for the first time of asking. Over to Jordan.
There you go, Pars going up. Plays against Madman on the hard tyres. A lot of drivers ended up going wide at the Lecombe chicane, but it looks like everyone made it through cleanly, just about no spinners. And everyone just starts to now settle into that line now. I say that as Redder looks to go down the inside of Ashtube into Lafania. It's a nice little move from the Ferrari, but it goes a little bit deep. Ashtube trying to go back around the outside, and that's what Lafania does. If you get it right, you can roll around the outside of someone. We've got a yellow flag, that's for ARL. I think there's Owen having a little bit of a wobble coming through campus just behind the Ferrari. We've got 2 different Red Bull liveries on the circuit, so easy to tell who's who. But for now, we come up towards the bus stop chicane for the first time, and Jeremy Clarkson is the leader from Bjorn de Boer and Sydney rounding out your top three. Although I think, is Owen close enough? Owen right on the tail of Ruddo. He's actually gone down the inside of the second half. And he's going to get a run on Ashtube down towards La Source. He's going to be on the outside. And remember, you haven't got the run off on La Source if you get it wrong.
Into the corner they go side by side. I was about to say whether it would have been worth for Owen just to have held back a little bit for where the DRS line is. We'll see whether he has got that or not, or whether it's Ashtube in the end. We're marginal coming across the line, but Ruddo has been shuffled back in the pack. That's a lovely run from Pars actually through the chicane there as they go over the top. Batteries deployed, and yeah, Owen didn't get it as Jeremy Clarkson takes the lead of the race as they try to filter 3 through in this fight, and that is Pars down the inside of Ashtube, who runs out of the way. A little bit of a correction for Owen over the curb, and Ruddo cannot find a way past. So Ashtube gets into 5th position then, and Owen's hard work, sadly, his race tactics there just belying him a little bit. It's big snap of oversteer for the War Islander in the Alpine on the exit of Bruel, and that is Denmark going past Madman. Although, to be fair to Madman, just keeping his racing line going through there. But Jeremy Clarkson held the lead despite the side-by-side with Björn. They've managed to keep those positions in the same place. I was about to say, Jordan, just to tag onto your comment about the 2 Red Bulls running different liveries, the FIA will disqualify them at the end of the race, of course. That regulation has been in place since 1999.
Yeah, I wonder what team caused that one, eh? But yeah, I did notice there were 2 by 2 going through Bruel as well between War Island and Denmark Madman. I think Nitrogash as well, which is not an uncommon place to go side by side, but also not the most common place to start making overtakes, as Jeremy Clarkson leads us on to lap number 3. And everyone... Oh, there's a spinner, that's Madman. Madman round at the bus stop chicane. I don't know if he got helped around, but down at the back of the pack, you feel this is going to be a race for Madman, where this is purely learning.
Yeah, I think he'll benefit from that, and for Madman, he will just be getting himself up to speed with the tyres. He's not. I spoke to him about this today, and he was saying that again for him, his learning is just about developing himself for Tier 2, coming into tomorrow's race as Björn closes the gap right down to Sydney.
Pars going past Ashtube with DRS into Lecombe.
Great start. I tell you what, great race from Pars, Jordan. Obviously starting at the back of the grid. He was in 13th place.
Ruddo's got a run on Owen. Sorry, Jack.
Gone.
Out of Malmedy, there was a bit of a twitch from Owen as allowed Ruddo down the inside into Bruel. And big, even bigger snap coming out of Bruel, and it could allow War Islander to come through.
Wow, we were on board with Owen then as he had that snap out of the corner, well held from the number 2 of the Red Bull there. I have to say number 2. I don't mean it as he's a number 2 driver. That's just literally on the side of his fin there at the back of it, as he really puts Ruddo under a bit of pressure through Lefania. But for the time being, he's going to have to remain behind the Scarlet Ferrari. The front 3 have just escaped from SFR Matty, which is a shame because Matty was doing a really good job keeping on to those trio at the front, but he's far enough ahead from Pars not to have to worry about anything for now. He's got a 3-second advantage as Ruddo very close to the bus. Well, I was going to call it the bus stop chicane, but technically that's not correct. And Ashtube's gone too deep. Ruddo, can he line this up? He can. He's just got to get on the power nice and early. Bit of battery deployments. Will he have the rear wing open? He will, but he decides better of it. I think he's going to wait for the Camel Straight.
Yeah, his own breaks a little bit deep and does actually make a bit of time. He did stick his nose down the inside. That's a big wobble for Denmark coming out of La Source. Just about holding on to that one in the I'm going to call it the Alpine McLaren, because that is his team beyond the Bur into the lead.
Well, that's what Björn was looking for. The Sauber driver, or Sauber Audi driver, is in the lead of the sprint here at Belgium. So Jeremy has to relinquish that one, but this trio in their own little battle at the front. Matty on his own. He has had the gap closed him a little bit by Pars, but we have got a racing, let's call that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a racing quintet. Denmark trying to hang on to the back of them. If he can, he'll properly make it a sextet, which is always a word everyone loves to say. Nitro is being caught up by ARL for 11th place, and Callum and Madman circulated just a little bit further back after their relative melodies.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the times are going to be like, because luckily I've got access to the data of last lap times. The leader's running in the low 45s at the moment, and the only person that was in the 45s last time around was Pars in a 45.9. As it looks like Sydney is gradually closing on that Haas, around Nitro Gash. I think Nitro may be just not fighting that when he knows he's not in that fight.
Yeah, he's not at the moment as one of the tier 2 protagonists, but Björn, fastest lap of the race, looks very quick at the moment, but he hasn't broken the gap of a 1 second that he needs to the Haas behind him. So Jeremy's going to close this one up. Watch out for Sydney. We'll ride on board with him. That Ferrari, I think he's got a glorious opportunity here. Into the DRS flap open we go, but so much momentum for the Ferrari behind. They both close up to the back of Björn, but Jeremy's picked the right place, I reckon. But he's going to try it to the outside, but there's no grip out there. And we've got Denmark around Jordan. Oh, Sydney, he's lost it. No, he's held it. Wow, cracking car control from the Ferrari. I was convinced he'd gone. And goodness me, the Tifosi were up in the air, but they could settle back down. He's not spun it, but he has lost ground to the front too. What a save.
Yeah, trying to keep up with everything. Denmark doesn't have a front wing anymore, so he'll have to pit. We could end up seeing that as a retirement, because you pit in a sprint race, especially this late when you're not going to get a safety car. That may well be a retirement and potentially a reset of the wheel if he still is having force feedback, as Ruddo looking to go around the outside of Astrid through Lafania down the inside of the second part. But as we know, the outside of the second part of Lafania is actually quite a useful line. They're still side by side through Campus, side by side through Stavolo, and finally Ruddo gets the move done. Can Owen get on the back of the RB coming up towards Blanchimont? That's the question.
Yeah, that is the real question, but it looks like Ashtube is really strong through here. He's going to be on the outside going into the chicane. We'll watch on board with Owen. Oh, Ruddo had to brake earlier, and it almost caused Owen to crash into the back of him, but thanks to that, the Red Bull squeaks on through. I don't think Ruddo would be too pleased with that, but I think the argument would be he braked a bit too early, and it caused all sorts of carnage. And here goes War Islander on the inside of the championship leader, and he goes through into 8th place. A nightmare couple of corners for the Ferrari.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that, because it did look there's a bit of side-by-side contact between the Ferrari and the Red Bull going into the bus stop. But obviously that's not for us to really comment on, as Denmark does retire from the sprint race. We may have an equipment check on that one, as Ruddo looks around the outside of War Islander into the com. And nothing the Alpine can do without any DRS down the Kemmel Straight.
And sadly, Denmark has left the session. I don't know if he's trying to do a reset. That might be something to try and re-invite him back into the lobby in just a moment. So hopefully one of me or Jordan will be able to do that. Back out front, Björn and Jeremy separated by less than a second. They are still clear of Sydney, who looks mighty in the middle sector. Jordan will be able to tell us the lap times in a few when he crosses the start-finish line. But Sydney comfortably ahead of Matty. Pars is gradually closing that gap down, but I think the Red Bull made a mistake earlier that we've not clocked, because that gap was 2.5 seconds, then it was 3, and it's now back down to 2.2. So I think the Red Bulls had some strife somewhere as Madman gets past Callum. But this is the fight we're focused on, really, the last spot for the points in the sprint. Of course, for those that don't know, the top 6 score points in the sprint in IRL. So Ashtube is holding on to that position, as Owen is the D1 drifter this evening for you, and your viewing pleasure as he slides right out of the chicane there, full opposite lock, and having a good time.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Bjorn's last lap a 45.6, Jeremy's a 45.7, Sydney a 45.4. A lot of that time coming in the second sector. He took a couple of tenths out of Bjorn just in the second sector alone.
That is impressive pace from the Ferrari, but at that rate of knots, he's not going to be able to have a say on the final lap as Owen slides his way through Les Combes and Malmedy. Definitely looks like that car is a little bit skittish to say the least, as he flies out
It's
of
very Red Bull 2025.
Definitely.
He has gone for absolute realism of a Red Bull, has Owen.
Just whilst we were talking, Madman and Callum have been having a great fight over 12th place. Those two squabbling for position on the different compound tyres. I do think the hards at this point now are probably the stronger tyre, but I think for Madman, as he flies off the road at Pouon, he's probably seeing the benefits a little bit too late, unfortunately, on the Mercedes. But it's interesting information for him tomorrow. Nitro's had a good race in 11th place. He's been a little bit gapped from the rest of the pack, but that is to be expected between the T1 and the T2 drivers. But just showing that he's had some good form this season as we go on to the final lap. And this is it, Jordan. Jeremy's big chance.
Yeah, if there's ever a lap to do it, it's going to be this lap. And the big chance is down the kennel. He's got to make sure he can follow close enough through Rouge and Radion. He's got 4 tenths, and I think that should just be about enough to make a challenge. But Bjorn on the battery. Jeremy to the outside. Can he brake late enough? They're going to go side by side into Lecombe. Still side by side to the left. Are they going to... Oh, contact! Jeremy Clarkson round!
Oh, and that's a massive shame. Jeremy Clarkson's off the road. He's scrambling to get back on. Is he going to get in front of Matty? He's got to get his tyres cleaned. It looked like side pod to side pod contact. I don't think either of them were at fault. They were both giving each other racing room. But sadly for Jeremy, that fired him off the road and he's fallen down. Pars is right there, Jordan. Just whilst we've been chatting, Pars is really close up to the back of Matty in this last part, whilst Owen is hanging on to 6th place with his fight with Ashtube. He did get in front of the Racing Bull on that lap as well, but Björn's on his way to a sprint win.
Yeah, Matty made a mistake in sector 3. I don't know, Jack, if you can invite him up. I don't think I've got him as a friend.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as I'll try and keep everyone on radio news. ARL getting past Ruddo. Ruddo's had a moment through campus. So he's now lost a place to ARL. Bjorn de Boer coming out of the final corner of the bus stop chicane. The Sauer driver wins the first sprint race of the season. Sydney comes home for second. Jeremy Clarkson is going to hold on for third in the Haas, with SFR Matty claiming fourth. Pars fifth. Ashtube will take the final point of the race, with Owen 7th, ARL 8th, Ruddo 9th, War Islander 10th, Nitro Gash will come home 11th. Madman will take 12th and some important tyre data with him. And Callum will have the last of the finishing spot.
Well, that was a wild finale for on that last lap. I don't think Jeremy will be too happy about that, but I as I said before, I certainly don't think it was either driver's fault. They both gave each other racing room, but there was side pod contact and that was it. It spat the Haas into the wall, which is a great shame. But Björn will take the win. Of course, this is a provisional result with Sydney in second, Jeremy third, Matty and Pars in fourth and fifth. Ashtube getting that final point back, so he snuck past Owen somewhere between Pouon and Campus, I believe. Then it's ARL, Ruddo, who had a bit of a nightmare there in that race with the War Islander in 10th, Nitro 11th, Madman 12th, Callum 13th, and as we saw, Denmark having some technical issues, and he has now got himself back into the lobby. So that is where we're at with that. Well, fascinating race. A lot to digest. I think what it showed was that the midfield are incredibly close together. If we look at the top three, you know, Björn, Jeremy, Sydney, you could argue maybe that on pace, Pars should have been up there. Had he have had a better qualifying session? The drivers will have a few moments to have a breather between this one-shot qualifying and the feature race. For those that don't know, the feature race is a little bit longer than what you would normally have in the sprint. So for this week's event, if you are just wondering, those people in the world out there right now, how long the actual race is for this one, just so you're aware, that it'll be 22 laps for the drivers to navigate around the circuit. Last time we were here, back in season 20, when I say ARL, but IRL was on the depths of its knees, Kent was the winner that day, last we were here.
I'm sure Kent will enjoy that stat. That's for sure. I mean, he'll be in action tomorrow. He'll be looking to do a repeat of that feat. But it's interesting. Obviously, we were talking about 1950 earlier, and track changes. Obviously, 20 years since the bus stop chicane changed. Back in 1950, this circuit was 14.1 kilometres long.
Yeah.
The pole position time was a 4 minutes 37 flat. And then Farina bettered that in the race by putting in a 4 minutes 34.1.
Wow.
The race was 494 kilometres, 35 laps. Can you imagine doing nearly 500 kilometres now?
Yeah, I can. I mean, like, because for me, I sort of long a little bit for the days when it was a bit more of an endurance test. And that's just me. That's because of the shorter racing nature nowadays. If you look at all of the top line categories within the FIA, outside of the World Motorsport Endurance Championship, with the WEC, you don't see it as much anymore. The endurance racing is still there, but it's on a shorter circuit. There's really only the Nürburgring Nordschleife that can still host big events. I do wish we had some longer circuits. There are still a few out there. They just don't really get used, or they're not really FIA graded.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of the old, as we see with the Nürburgring in reality at Nordschleife, a lot of the very long circuits we used to have were basically road courses.
Yeah.
You look at Le Mans, it still is a road course, but has been adapted to allow the safety features of modern day racing. But as we know, not every single circuit that can be adapted, and it's why obviously with Spa-Francorchamps, the layout, the current layout we have now got put in 1979. Just purely down to the safety and as we saw from like Nicky Lauda's accident in Nordschleife in '76, probably a big determining factor on Spa getting changed.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, what for me, what I'd like to see from new race circuits that are being built is not just the length, but also a track that has a bit more of a flow to it. I think if you look at, so the one example I'm thinking of at the moment is, I don't know if you know much about this circuit, Jordan, but have you heard of the Bend?
I feel like I've heard it, but not looked into it.
Yeah, it's a motorsport park basically in Australia. It's been holding the, what is it now? I always forget the official name of the championship. Basically, but the V8 supercars has done for quite a long time. It is a relatively new motorsport park. I think it only was built like 10 years ago or something like that. But it is quite long, and it's got 16 corners. But there's a lot of a flow to it. There's a lot of different layouts that you can use, and it is Grade 2. Now, F1's never going to go to somewhere other than Melbourne unless it's for a city circuit. But I like the challenge of complex circuits that, one, aren't located in a city, but two, if they are located, they present a challenge. I look at Las Vegas as a prime example and just think it's an entertaining venue. It's really good for overtaking opportunities, battles, especially with this year's regulations. There's probably going to be a lot more overtakes on track than we've ever seen before. But does it challenge the drivers like a circuit like that? I don't necessarily think it does.
It challenges them to avoid train covers.
That can be quite difficult, depending on where you are in the world. But we aren't far away, though, are we, from from qualifying. Looks like we're due to get started in the next 20 seconds. And Jordan, because I get to ask this question, I could be mean. Oh, as Denmark's left the session. Who was your prediction for pole position?
It depends, because I think we've got mixed weather again between qualifying and race. So, and you know me, I don't normally do predictions, but I'm going to go with Bjorn based on the pace he had at the end of last race.
All right then, we'll go on board with Sydney then as we approach turn 1 for the first time of asking. Into the right-hander we go, no dramas through La Source, up through the gears and powers his way down towards Eau Rouge and Radion, of course. No braking through the left, right, left, no issues, hitting the curves, hitting the marks, all he needs to do, spot on. He's currently faster than anybody at this moment in the lap. Down the Camel Straight we go, and towards Les Combes and Malmedy. The right-left has to be lined up nicely to set up the Malmedy right-hander, and he's really nailed the apexes there. Touch wide on it for Malmedy, but that's not going to lose him any time. Bruel's difficult braking zone, has to keep the car a little bit tight, but not as tight as that. And he runs over the curb and loses a touch of time into the corner with No Name, the left-hander that drops all the way down to one of the most famous corners in Formula 1, into the long left-hander at Pouhon. That is big commitment from the Ferrari. Towards Le Fagnes we come, the sweeping right-left. As we go into fourth gear, he's a touch wide through there. It's going to put him offline for the left-hander. Now he's got to get Campus right. He's in the mix for a good row position here, but he's just got to make sure these last few corners are good. He's sliding as he goes through Stavelot at the right-hander. Blast towards Paul Frere, which isn't really a corner in modern Formula 1 cars, and into Blanchimont. Completely flat this should be in qualifying. Trim is doing a good job. He's back at the front. All about the braking zone for the chicane. He has to go down through the gears as quickly as he possibly can. Third gear for the Ferrari driver. That was lovely and stable. Second on the way out. Downshift, upshift all the way to the flag. And despite that massive twitch at Bruel, he scored pole position.
Interesting fact, I think Sydney's got a very low wing setup here. He was nearly 3 tenths quicker than Bjorn through sector 1, then lost 4 tenths through sector 2.
Well, it's a Dutch 1-2 again. What a surprise. It's Sydney followed by Björn. ARL has got a good qualifying lap in there in the RB in third, with Ruddo in fourth, more like it from the championship leader going into this race. Owen almost at the front and nearly took pole position. He ends up fifth with Jeremy Clarkson in sixth. Warheinder and Aschib are seventh and eighth, with Pars down in ninth place. His qualifying not really assisting him too much so far today. The fourth place finisher in the sprint, Matty, is 10th, with Madman, Callum, Nitrogash and Denmark not setting a time at the end, but the other three did, just a little bit further back.
Yeah, no, a very important thing with the way sprints work nowadays is, scrap getting your boats, get your yachts out. We're going sailing.
They're all F1 drivers. They've all got yachts.
It's full wet. I must also say, Jack, looking at the garages, it's full wet conditions.
Yeah.
Someone grab the safety cup.
And it's George Russell who gets his first podium in the Williams.
I mean, this is the nice thing with the game, is it not? Is that in real life this would be starting behind the safety car.
Yeah.
Because it's a game, we're gonna go sailing.
Yeah, we are. And I think what we've seen from the weather conditions is that it can all change. You know, I think the key here is, has anybody looked at the weather conditions for the start of this race and gone, maybe it will dry up? And I think around here, Jordan, because it is a, 4.3 mile circuit, I do think that this is a circuit where it's more likely to dry up than shorter circuits, shorter tracks, just because of the way the track evolution in the game works. And I think we'll have an interesting point later where there'll be a definitive cut-off, and if you're not in the pits on the right lap, you are going to lose a heap of time if it dries up. We don't know if it will, but if it does, that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and with the length of circuit as well around here, getting that tyre change, if it does dry up, is absolutely critical. I mean, I've seen it the other direction, dry to wet, where it started to rain. People have pitted on inters, even though it looks like they should have done, but it gets wet so quickly that they become the better tyre. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult wet to dry because you'll end up having the dry line. And it's just a little bit more difficult because you've got to be very, very precise if and when you do that.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really key decision for the drivers. Speaking to Madman, he said he feels like he's made a mistake picking the hard tyres, being the outlier, but he was a little bit better. He's also a little bit frustrated that he had his own spin. So we were wondering about that in the race, Jordan, about whether he had contact. He just did it all by himself.
Yeah, always one of those frustrating things, but luckily this is purely practice for him. To some degree, I think that's probably the biggest thing you can take away from it. While as annoying as it might be, it doesn't really affect anything. It just emphasises the learning that he's going to get ready for Tier 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget, it will be ARL and Björn commentating on the next race tomorrow for the Tier 2 drivers. ARL saying, not looking forward to the rain, wouldn't be Spa without the rain though, and quite right too, sir. I don't think it would be in the slightest. Spa always has that element about it because of where it's located geographically in the world, and also with the Ardennes not being too far away. It does have its own little microclimate.
Yeah, that's one way of putting the Belgian weather patterns. The question is, I'm just waiting for the get ready to go from Ruddo.
Do you want to know a fact, Jordan, whilst we wait? I'll give you a little guess. How many, out of all the races that have happened in Formula One at Belgium, in Spa specifically, how many races, or what percentage of races do you reckon have been held in wet weather conditions, or there has at least been wet weather running during the race?
I want to say something quite high, like 70, because it does tend to rain because of when they normally run it, but I can't remember when they used to run it back in the olden days, but I'd say 60 to 70%.
Incredibly, and I would have initially thought the same thing as you actually, incredibly, it's 29%.
They must have held it back in like June or something back in like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, it would have done at the time. Yeah, there was quite a few races that were summer events. For those that are unaware, before Formula One was a thing in the FIA, it was officially known as the European Grand Prix season. There's actually quite a lot of races that happen during sweltering summer heat times, and they continued that onto the 50s and 60s. But yeah, tons. 29% is still quite a high rate though. 1 in 3 races you're going to have a wet race. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. The other thing that I'm looking forward to see, Jordan, is
Jeremy and Matty.
Yeah, Jeremy and Matty taking the intermediate tyre, and I've got to say,
oh my word, Sydney nearly lost it coming out of Malmedy on the formation. He's obviously testing the grip.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do a Piastri though, does he?
Yeah, luckily you can't do that on this game, but
we don't want to replicate a Piastri. Spoiler alert.
One thing is, I do have sort of like a weather forecast in front of me, which I think might not help Jeremy and Matty on the basis it's meant to be this sort of. It's got a lightning icon for at least the next 10 minutes, and then it sort of lightens up about 15 minutes into the race, about a third of the way. That might not help those intermediate runners because they are basically hoping that this dries up quicker.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe they're hoping then that the gamble to stay out there for as long as possible, whether the conditions are almost like on the crossover stage between, if you know what I'm trying to say, Jordan, in terms of the intermediates just about being okay enough to run in the wet, but probably not the quicker tyre. If they're losing about half a second a lap to the front runners, this is a quids in. You know, they're gonna get in front of everybody. I've also noticed Jeremy Clarkson's very limited by fuel. I just noticed on the formation lap. as he was coming into the braking zone. He did have an amber fuel light. Now, of course, if you're running in wet weather conditions, you'll be fine. You won't use as much petrol as you would in dry weather running. But that's something that he doesn't want to have as an issue for himself later in the race.
Yeah, also for Denmark, it won't let you take control of your car until the race has started, because you rejoined during one-shot qualifying. Once the race gets underway, you'll be able to get back into your car and go racing. But Jack, it's time to go boating.
Well, the boating lakes of the Ardennes aren't particularly well known, but we've got one for the drivers to try and navigate tonight for the main race. And the main race is live here at Spa. It's a good start once again for Sydney as they go towards turn 1, as they blast through the spray. There's a Ferrari round, and that's the Red Bull round. Owen's got it all wrong going into the corner, and he hit the tail end of, I think it was ARL, into the corner, and he's gone round. But Björn is going to be alongside Sydney into Eau Rouge. Oh, this is unbelievably tight as they go through there, and Björn's made it through. ARL goes off the road. Everybody's flying off. Jeremy Clarkson on the intermediate fires his way up to 4th. He's coming for 3rd place. Can he make it there in time? It's all going to be a battle of the late breakers down the Kemmel Straight and into Les Combes. They keep it nice and tight, and ARL just retained 3rd place. The War Islanders in 7th, Pars is 8th, Matty's in 9th place as we blast through the spray over to Jord.
Yeah, everyone else getting through pretty clean and fortunate for Owen, but he's got a long race ahead of him.
Oh.
And Denmark going down these with a Matty, bit of contact. Well, Matty really struggling on his intermediates at the moment, trying to get them fired up and working. He'll lose the place to Denmark, but he'll be hoping for this rain to go away. And you can see Matty in the background. He loses the place to Callum now. He just has absolutely no grip. Jeremy Clarkson doing well to get these tyres fired up, but I feel like they're probably not going to be too great going forwards. Matty did get back past Callum through Pouon, so I think lots of drivers just trying to make sure they don't make too many mistakes here, as Ashton on the back of Ruddo once again these two on circuit.
Yeah, look at that, and that's a nice tight line out of the right-hander at number 15 for the Racing Bull, but just can't get on the power early enough, and Ruddo just cements 5th place. Ruddo having a huge moment at turn 1 on the first corner, just about gathered it all together, and thankfully no damage, although the game looked like it flicked up a whole load of it from the back of his car. Björn leading though at the minute. Sydney is 2nd, ARL shadowing them quite nicely. Jeremy, like Jordan said, is doing a good job, and if he can stay there, he is in prime position later on in this race. Ruddo's in 5th, then it's Ashtube. Loads of sliding from Callum in the background. My goodness me, having a big fight with Madman into turn 1. We ride on board with the Mercedes, who slides it down the inside, but that was very deep. And Callum will try and come back at him. Contact between the two, and McLaren goes in front. So, nice lunge that, but the drivers certainly having their difficulties at the minute.
Yeah, just trying to find the limits of what grip they have, as Pars and Warren are going side by side down towards Les Combes. Warren does break later, but unfortunately can't quite find the grip around the outside, and Pars is actually sliding a lot going through there, and Denmark looking to try and take advantage of this little fight.
Oh.
What a switch back through Malmedy. That's fantastic from these two are actually teammates, by the way.
Maybe because they've got
different cars, but they're actually teammates.
Maybe the colour schemes brought them back to life, and they've got a bit of racing rivalry going on.
But they are actually teammates. They are actually both for the Alpine team. Just obviously Denmark, unfortunately, ending up in a different car because of late joining. But it was a nice move nonetheless from Denmark, as Warren are just seemingly struggling in these conditions, as Ashtube has Pars looking down the inside of Lafagna around the outside. I mean, this has been a favourite tonight through the second half of the Lafagna chicane, and Pars takes 6th place away.
Does he? Because Ashtube puts his nose there at the right-hander at Stavolo. You can't be doing that. And I tell you what, Jordan, Denmark is just taking every opportunity that he gets. He's now going to breeze into 7th. They should be able to go side by side through Blanchimont. Oh my goodness me. Tyres interlocking. You don't want that through Blanchimont. But I tell you something, Ashtube down back up the inside, at the chicane. They're both going to run a little bit deeper, but it's fair play to them. They actually both got it quite stopped. Denmark doesn't want to give up any advantage where possible. War Islander trying to find a way back past, but he's not got the momentum off the corner. Ashtube on the inside for turn number 1. Down through the gears they go. Can Denmark get it switched again underneath? How has he got this much car control? In the braking zone, they're going to make contact. Ashtube has a wobble, and surely they're going to finish this battle off down the Kemmel Straight at this rate. The McLaren on the inside line, Ashtube on the outside line through that corner. Where is War Islander? Well, he's not quite taken advantage until now. He's going to try and look to the outside line, but he gets boxed in.
They're still side by side coming up down the Kemmel Straight somehow.
Here comes Owen! Oh, it's 4 wide! It's almost 5 wide as Matty tries to join in the fun, but Denmark gets into place and he's finally consolidated it, and Owen fires up to Ave. Brilliant bit of opportunistic driving from Owen, but he goes wide and Matty flies back through on the intermediates.
War Islander also getting past Ashtube, now down the inside of the Red Bull himself. This has been utter carnage right from the source, but it's fantastic to watch. Very clean from everyone. And War Islander does get the move done on Owen. Into 9th he goes. And the question is, will Ashtube now have a pop at Owen because he's close enough coming down towards his favourite overtaking spot of Lafayette. But what a set of corners, half a lap out pretty much of just pure racing between 5 different cars.
It was a fabulous battle between the quintet. It's brought Callum and Madman right back into the fun. That has been absolutely brilliant to watch that. I mean, the Tier 1 action this season, ladies and gentlemen, has been fantastic, but that's just showing you again how clean these guys race. Absolutely wonderful to see here in IRL. But that fight has just separated out. But I've got to say, Jordan, since we've done a couple of laps, Matty is looking quite good on the intermediates here.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the last lap times. The intermediates are sort of level with the wets right now. They're not necessarily faster as War Islander and Owen.
War Islander getting through there. That was a nice move that from War Islander. Oh, Owen's just got that a little bit wrong. Here's Ashtube.
Ashtube will take full advantage. The question is, can he get far enough alongside down to Rouge? The answer is no. He decides better of it. Maybe thought he didn't fancy going through there again a little bit. Like, oh, big snap for Owen as he goes cutting across Radion. He's going to have to give that place back up.
Side by side at the front, and Sydney goes through. Whilst we were watching that, Sydney gets through, but Björn not quite close enough at Bruel, but the Ferrari understeers at the right-hander. Björn just keeping his nose there, ready to pounce to make a mistake. That was a nice move. But just coming back to what you were saying, Jordan, Owen had a huge snap because War Islander was so slow through Eau Rouge. I'm not quite sure what happened. It was almost like he just had no power going up the hill, and Owen had to react to that, and how he's not put it in the wall, I don't quite know.
I mean, I'm surprised the game hasn't given him a penalty for overtaking off circuit. He definitely cut Radion. It wasn't. I don't think it was my imagination.
No, he definitely did. I wonder if he was in front.
I don't think he was. I'm pretty certain.
I don't know.
I'm pretty certain he was behind because he had a massive twitch behind War Islander.
Yeah.
Unless the game thought that War Islander was going so slow that it was practically letting him through.
Yeah, but that's the thing with this game. Sometimes you can, your logic is right, Jordan. I'm not disputing that, but this game does have its own little foibles. And speaking of foibles, Denmark is sliding through Blanchimont, and Matty wants to get on with it. That's brave. Björn's in the pits, as is ARL. Is it time for intermediates?
Looking at the lap times last time around, Matty was quicker than Denmark by 0.6 of a second. I'm going to see a raft of pit stops for intermediates and Jeremy Clarkson. I think this rain has just lightened up a little bit earlier than everyone was potentially expecting. Sydney going to carry on though, but Jeremy Clarkson in the best seat in the house, as is Matty, who is now 4th place.
Yeah, it's really worked out for the two who started on the intermediates, but we know what Sydney will try to do. Same with Pars, I reckon, as they'll try and hang it out for as long as possible. Right now the wets, they're not in an awful position, but in truth, I think those on the wets who've stayed out, so that is Sydney, the 2 Red Bulls and Callum, they're going to just try and hope either one for a safety car or two that the rain just holds as it is for now.
I mean, the other thing that they could be looking for here is maybe to see if they can take the wets far enough into this race that, because ultimately the intermediates, they're going to have to stop probably halfway through this race.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Sydney, the likes of Sydney and Pars, they're going to basically try to hang this out now for another 6 laps and come in at the same time, so they're on exactly the same strategy.
Well, this lap will be crucial then in terms of whether the intermediates are stronger than the wets at the minute, as Denmark's power slides through Bruel. Out of the no-name corner they go, but absolutely, positively power sliding through there. In fact, Warren has gone very wide at Pouon. I think he's found himself in Cologne. He went that far wide. But the McLaren is there, and Ruddo has just got himself past Callum, who is having a struggle on those wets. Those are looking like they're giving up.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be going to be much fun if the line's dry enough. They will start to overheat, and the tread blocks on the wet will start to basically become like jelly and move around a lot, and that will cause you a loss of grip. But as you say, Sydney now in the pit. I'm sort of not surprised because he lost a couple of tenths through sector 2. He was still quicker than Jeremy Clarkson through sector 1 on the last lap, so I think he probably started a bit of life left, but wanted to cover beyond the Burt.
And he might have done, Jordan. He might have done it. He had not had a big slide out of the pit lane, but Björn has just re-emerged in front of the Ferrari, so those two hold station for now. We'll see if Sydney's close enough to try and make a move. He's applying all of the battery, which I need to turn off because a lot of people are going to get an idea of how quickly he's going. But towards the first opportunity on these intermediates at the braking zone, he can't find a way through, but these two are having fun out there. It's a really nice battle. Clarkson then is at the front of the pack. Pars still out on the wet, so the two Red Bulls have decided maybe Jordan's strategy is correct, but you are starting to see that drier line appearing on the racetrack. So, can they help those tyres along for at least another 3, if not 4 laps?
And the other thing to note here is the pit stop time to come and change tyres, because it's wet at the moment, is not as great as if it was a dry race. Obviously Sydney coming out about 13 seconds behind Jeremy Clarkson. It was about a loss of around 16-ish seconds because he was about 3.5 up. So obviously it is a slightly shorter pit lane loss because of the weather.
Yeah, that is certainly true. I'm watching again with the Ferrari of Sydney. I know that Denmark and War Islander have been close throughout this race, and they are currently at the minute, but Sydney, they're quite close enough to the Sauber into the chicane.
Nitrogash is catching Callum now. Callum also has made a pit stop as Matty puts in the fastest lap of the race, a 2:01.1. So he's really finding a rhythm as Winder now picks up 3 seconds worth of penalties, which it's not uncommon to pick up time penalties around here, but in the wet it's very easily done. And I think we're going to maybe start to see those who have kept a dry setup or drier setup on the car as the surface starts to dry up.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is going to be a race in flux. I do feel that in the next few laps we are going to potentially move to slick conditions, and I think maybe that's what Pars is hoping for at the minute, because there is a drier line there. It's nowhere near ready for dry tyres, but 3 or 4 laps from now it might be, and Pars is 7 seconds in front of Björn and Sydney at the minute, and if he can just stick there, or even at least, well, he won't stick there because they'll get caught, but if he can just stay in front for the next 2 or 3 laps, that might be time by that point to even consider a gamble for odds, but it's all to play for.
One of the biggest indicators is when you ride on board with a car, if you can see spray coming from the front tyres, you're still not ready for slicks. That's generally a good indicator. As soon as you start seeing the spray disappear, then you know you're getting closer and closer, and you can just see the wets aren't exactly happy, but Pars is still keeping good time at the moment in comparison to the likes of Jeremy Clarkson. He's not exactly losing much to the leading Haas.
No, he's doing okay out there, isn't he? He seems to be finding a nice balance. If anything, it's Matty and Björn whose gap is closing a little bit. But I'm really, really pleased to see Matty operating nearer the front this season. It's lovely seeing him up there. His gamble has paid off. It's now a question of what pace does he have, and can he beat the strategists again and try and do something a little bit different later on. Ruddo, the one looking like the fastest driver out there at the minute. Last 2 laps, he's been setting the fastest lap of the race. So Ruddo, I wonder if his tyres, like Jordan, or rather his setup, like Jordan was saying earlier, I wonder if his car is much more equipped for drier conditions. That's something we'll have to watch out for. But the gap between himself and ARL is closing, as is the one for 4th place, as Björn goes down to 5th position with Sydney on the inside. They go side by side into Les Combes. They give each other the racing room. Nitrogash is out of the race, but he's pitted whilst that's happened. Sydney on the inside, going through Malmedy, and Björn goes over the curb and can't fight back as his car bottomed out, and the Ferrari gets ahead into 4th position. Oof, big slide from Björn.
Ruddo quickest last time around by 6/10 over anyone.
He's enjoying these conditions. The Fun Cup man, having a Fun Cup time. That also race around here, just for the record. Nitrogash has left.
Unfortunately for Nitrogash, problem is I wonder if he's sort of having a bit of a rough race and also thinking this might not necessarily be the best sort of practice for tomorrow, because if tomorrow's a dry race, the sort of data point is a little bit null and void, but you just never know what you might get.
Pars, though, Jordan, is falling away on those wet tyres.
2 seconds lost through sector 2, I'd say. He's probably made a mistake somewhere. Possibly through Puon or No Name, I'd have thought.
Let's just see as he comes into the next corner. He carries on. So Pars committing himself to this strategy. We're still getting spray from the cars around us. But Ruddo looking like the driver who wants to make an overtake next. Sydney a 58.2 as the fastest lap. Ruddo did catch up to ARL, so I wonder if he's now limited to what the Racing Bull is doing in front of him currently as he slides out of T1. He's really trying to put the power down. But Ruddo is right in the fight here.
Yeah, Ruddo very much with his teammate, only a tenth slower than Sydney on that occasion. Actually less than 10, more like half a tenth. So
here he comes.
He's going to line up ARL to the inside. Remember, no DRS in these conditions. So it's all going to be done on traction and battery, and Ruddo gets through. His next target going to be Bjorn de Boer, and his last round was 1.3 faster than the Sauber. But these guys who have pitted, they are starting to rip time into Jeremy Clarkson.
They are. The gap a couple of laps ago between Sydney and Jeremy was 12 seconds. It's now 8.5. But they will have cars they have to clear in the first place. And Pars and Matty are now engaged in their own battle over second place. For Matty's race, he really needs to find a way past this Red Bull. Not only to eliminate him from podium contention, but also to stem the flow from the two coming behind. Corner by corner, you can see Sydney getting right up to the back of this duo, and Sydney flying in the middle sector by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think Pars really is hanging on to try and get on the same strategy as the two around him. He's now about 2 seconds a lap slower than the intermediate runners around him, so he's trying an audacious strategy here as Pars, but if it works, he could keep himself in this fight. He carries on round once again, now leading a quartet of cars. Oh, big wobble for Matty, and either that or that was a bit of a game visual glitch once again, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, but Sydney right on the gearbox.
And he'll be ready if he can try and line this up with the two, but I don't know if he's going to be able to. Here comes Matty, that's brave, he had to be brave. There's contact between the two as they go towards Eau Rouge, but the Williams has found a way through, and sure enough, Sydney wants to get past the pair of them. There's one. Can he get past the second? He's going to go on the grass. He's on the grass down the main straight. Unbelievable bravery from Sydney, and he goes through to second. Unbelievable. In wet weather conditions, who cares about traction? I've got a Ferrari, let's go for it. He rips up the grass and he's into second place. What brilliant bravery that was.
The local gardeners are not going to be happy with him, but when you've got mud and snow tyres on the car, why not? And the best part about that from Sydney, he's managed to trap Bjorn de Burgh behind 2 cars.
Yeah, he has absolutely played a blinder with that overtake. And Björn, he gets past Pars, and Pars now is just falling away. I'm looking at it, Jordan. It's not there for Dries. It's not far. His Pars go. Oh, Ruddo gets it a bit wrong. Just about. He was trying to go through. I think Ruddo knows the time is now to get past.
It is just got to play slightly more patiently as Ruddo. Just with a little bit of impatience, he knows if he can get past Pars, he can get onto the back of Bjorn de Burgh, and that's great for the Constructors and his Drivers' Championship. But he's got to make sure he's patient enough to not ruin his own race here. Still over half of the race left to go here, Jack, and plenty of time to make time. And Pars is actually, I think, yeah, he's out of battery completely.
But despite, when he goes into the pits, so that's time. So is he going for the hards, Jordan? Because I think if he is,
I'll keep an eye on him.
It's borderline. I'm going to say it. It's borderline.
You'll be a brave man. It's intermediates.
Really?
Intermediate tyres for the Red Bull.
I mean it.
Now, the one thing that this could work out for him in, we've seen how effective new intermediates are over the older ones. So this is effectively going to act like an undercut. And looking at the... have a quick look at the weather forecast, see, are we expecting this rain to knock off? Because if the rain doesn't knock off, we'll probably be staying in these intermediate conditions all the way, and looking at it, we're not expecting anything dry for at least another 15 to 20 minutes.
We'll see. But he's going to have to make a lot of ground up, because the problem now is that if I have a look at the overall gaps...
30 seconds behind Jeremy.
Yeah, and he's 7 seconds behind his own teammate. That's how much time he's lost since carrying on. Owen lost time as well relative to the rest of the field because he stayed out for an extra 2 laps. So in 4 laps, Owen has made effectively a massive that's a 7-second buffer to his teammates. So we'll have to see if that pays off. But everything just, for the time being, settles down. ARL right on the back of this fight for getting inside the top 5. Sydney is hauling time out of Jeremy at the moment. That gap now 4.6 seconds. The Ferrari's coming and he wants his championship.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the next couple of laps Jeremy Clarkson comes in the pits, gets some new boots on, or he might try and hang this out if he thinks it's going to go to slick running conditions. But he's just lost another 2.6 seconds to Sydney.
That's astonishing speed. So lap 14.
He's losing a whole second through the middle sector.
Yeah, we know Sydney seemingly has a car really nicely well set up for these wet weather conditions. He's absolutely bolted away from Björn since he got in front. The question now, Jordan, becomes in terms of the time of when to pit. I'm looking at the Camel Straight at the moment, and I'm looking at minimal spray. In fact, I'm seeing Matty trying to cool the tyres down, and I'm thinking it's a lap or 2 away, because they're all trying to cool their tyres down. I'm watching the War Islander. There's no spray there. I was going to say, when Pars pitted, I am surprised he didn't go for the hard tyres. It would have been a lap too soon.
I think the biggest problem with the hard tyres around here is getting them heated up.
Yeah.
They are going to be horrible, and remember, they've got to come out of a wet pit lane, because that pit lane is not going to be dry in any sense. I think if they're going to pit for slicks, it'll be the hardest compound that goes the mediums. They'll probably try and hang this out to maybe sort of like lap 15, 16, sort of similar, just under distance of the sprint, and go mediums, because they should heat up faster and better than any hard compound.
I'm watching Pars going through Poo on, and he's trying to cool the tyres down. That's That's what the situation I feel is at the minute, and I think we're almost there. I think if you did pit for hards, it would be too early on this next lap, but the gamble is there for someone to try. You know, I'm looking at Madman, who's not too far away from the group. You know, he's got nothing to lose. It's worth a gamble for him. You know, same for Callum, who's having a huge power slide through Lefania.
Sydney just took 2.9 out of Jeremy Clarkson on that lap alone.
Wow. His heart will be plunging to his boots, Jeremy, seeing that lap time counter just drop.
If this does go slicks and he makes it to the slick period on that one set of tyres, and he's still in contention with the top three, he's done the job.
Well, it's looking like he is part of the front two, isn't it? Realistically, he's 5 seconds clear of Björn.
Yeah,
Rudder goes through.
Bjorn took 2.8 out of him on that lap, or 2.7, sorry, out of him on that last lap. So Bjorn is closing.
So Matty also in the same position now as what Jeremy is in, having started on the intermediate.
I mean, speaking of Matty, he was actually 1.3 quicker than Jeremy Clarkson last time around. So Matty managing that tyre better than the race leader.
I wonder if his setup is also his smooth driving, but his setup is just helping him out a little bit more there, as Sydney all over the rear diffuser of Jeremy Clarkson. And now you hold on to your seatbelts, everybody, because it is belt and braces time as Sydney slides through Stavolo. The car seemingly having enough grip round there to have a four-wheel drift. But Jeremy, there's no DRS either, Jordan, so this is another part of the intermediate conditions that the drivers are going to have to contend with. You know, just because Sydney's right up behind him isn't going to make it easy.
No, and whilst you watch the front two, I'm also watching the battle for fifth, because ARL is looking for a move on Matty. He looks to the outside of the bus stop chicane. Can he keep on the inside? Yes, he can. Should have the superior grip. And the Racing Bull into the top five as Ruddo now puts in the fastest lap of the race, a 56.488.
And you know something? On this lap, on the exit of turn one, Sydney's throttle application out of La Source wasn't particularly strong. He has clawed that gap a little bit back now, but Jeremy's going to go defensive, and without the DRS, he's going to be able to defend this. And if he can keep defending for another lap or two, he's going to bring Björn into the fight here. And that is not what Sydney needs. He really... but Sydney has another problem with Malmedy. He had that spin there, well, a half spin in the sprint race, and it looks like he wants to make it 2 out of 2 almost.
Yeah, it's going to be a question of what happens.
Great move that from Ashtube. Sorry to cut over you, Jordan. He had a lovely overtake, but he ran deep. And Denmark and him make contact. They get away with it. But Pars is trying to find a way past. And I think, Jordan, the strategy for Pars, as he tries to go through on Ashtube at Bruel, he's going to be on the outside at the left-hander, and he makes it through. That's a nice move in the end. I don't think that strategy's worked out for him.
No, I could see the idea. Jeremy Clarkson has a big slide going through Stavolo. Somehow kept the power on. You either had to pit earlier, or you had to hang it out like Jeremy Clarkson's doing right now. And Sydney shaping up the move, looks one way. Oh, that's a bit of a late move from Jeremy Clarkson into the bus stop. They're just about going to get away with that. I don't think any damage to the Ferrari. But a very late manoeuvre going into the bus stop chicane. I don't think Sydney's going to be too impressed with that one.
And look, he's right there. If Sydney can... Sydney just can't get off turn one. Each time he tries, he just has a wobble for whatever reason. Jeremy's got a really good traction zone out of there, and now they're going to fly up towards Lecombe once again to do another battle. Both drivers on the battery. Which way will Jeremy go? He goes to the inside line, the extreme inside line. Sydney's going to have to go the long way round here. He's got the overspeed. Can he do it on the brakes? Just about. Has a little slide mid-corner. He's going to be offline for Malmedy, which isn't his favourite. Can Jeremy find a way through? He's sideways through there. defensive braking manoeuvre for Bruel from Sydney, and the Haas cannot find a way back past. And this is sketchy territory now, because I'm watching the drivers all fighting over positions, but I'm seeing a Björn in third place, watching with close intent.
Yeah, no, I must note well, Rodder made a mistake on that last lap. He lost 1.3 through the middle sector, so that's why he's gone from 3 and a bit seconds to 5.2 against Björn.
Less than ideal for the Ferrari driver, but he's not lost position, which is the critical element for the Ferrari man. But Sydney now, he's 7/10 clear of Jeremy, who's 7/10 clear of Björn. And I think for Sydney, he's going to have to just try and find his way back into a rhythm again. He spent a couple of laps fighting with Jeremy. He's going to have to just recycle his way around. It looks like he's doing that. Oh, look at the speed from Björn. Look at this. He came from absolutely nowhere. That's an astounding bit of battery management for Björn, and he's got up to second.
Yeah, obviously Jeremy would have used a lot of battery against Sydney in the unsuccessful defence into Lecomte. And it's allowed Björn the opportunity to get past him.
I'm going to be honest, Jordan. I've just noticed Jeremy just lift and coast into turn 1. As we've got a pitter in the form of Owen. Is he going to brave it?
I'm going to have a look.
It's got to be
down
mediums.
to the Red Bull garage.
Surely.
It is medium tyres. He's going to the slicks.
He's got nothing to lose. Like he's in that prime position. He's not fighting currently the top 6, but he's also a little bit in front of the rest of the group behind. So why not go for it?
The other thing to remember is, yes, there's 13 runners on circuit, but 2 of those runners are not in this tier. They do not score points, they do not count. So Owen will score points as long as he finishes this race.
And they had no grip coming out of the pit lane like you postulated earlier, Jordan. But he was okay through Eau Rouge and Radion. It's all about Lecomte.
I'll keep on board with them, because I think Austria and Denmark are quite close at the moment on circuit, as they have been for the majority.
Ooh.
I've been very much struggling through Lecomte, just trying to get the power down. And you can see the darker strip of tarmac. That's the bit he has to stay on. If he goes wide like he has done through Bruel, you can see instantly just no grip. He might as well be driving on ice.
He's tried something a little bit different, and perhaps it was 1 lap too early, half a sector too early maybe. He's gone wide at P1, and I think that's a bit harsh, giving him a 3-second time penalty for that as we watch him. And Ruddo also pings the time penalties. Denmark and Austria, like you say, Jordan, still close together. But we'll keep an interesting eye on that. But Owen isn't closing the gap to Madman, and now Jeremy Clarkson and SFR Matty must be thinking, crikey, when's the dry weather going to come, because we're going to need it.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need it, although Roddo isn't exactly taking time like he was earlier out of Jeremy. I mean, there does come to almost like a point where these intermediates do start to become almost like slicks. It doesn't really happen in the same way that it happened for Juan Pablo Montoya in Brazil that one year. I can't remember the exact year of it. It doesn't quite happen the same in that sense, but they will start to just be the same out of a certain age of tyre.
Yeah, they certainly will. I'm just watching Ashtube cooling his tyres down. He's going to blast his way up through Eau Rouge.
Through that last sector, Owen was 4.7 seconds slower than Madman in that final sector alone.
Wow, that gamble definitely didn't pay off.
Oh, and he had a bit of a slide through Rouge and Radion. That's the edge of your seat moment.
Well, he had to try. He absolutely had to try. If it does dry up towards the end of this race, though, if it dries up in the next 2 or 3 laps, he's going to be on the best tyre to get back past Madman and Ashtube, even though they are quite far up the road. It just depends how much time he loses over the course of this lap.
What Owen needs is for it to be just not quite ready as everyone passes the pits.
Yeah.
But as everyone starts going onto that lap, the track become ready, so he has a whole lap advantage.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get that lap of advantage, he won't gain anything. Well, that's very wide. That's a very ambitious. Yeah, very ambitious from. We don't give her that. I mean, fair play. I like the commitment.
I mean, I'm sure on your boards out there rating that 1 out of 10, it will have been a 10 for commitment. He's absolutely scrabbling to fight the car. I mean, the closest of a fight at the minute, Owen's getting a lot of screen time at the minute, but the closest fight outside of that is Ashtube and Denmark, but they're not really fighting for position. So we're just watching Owen with interest. It's a 54.8 from Pars on those fresher intermediate tyres than anybody else. Jordan, you'll be able to, actually we'll all be able to see the lap data.
Pars was, that is 6/10 quicker than anyone. Sydney doing a 55.5 pretty much. So it nearly bends it into the main straight wall. I mean, who needs leaders when you've got Owen trying to scrabble for grip on a slick tyre?
Björn's not far away though, Jordan. He's only 1.5 seconds behind.
He did lose half a second on the last lap though. So I'll keep an eye on the lap times. We'll see how Bjorn goes. But I think now that Sydney's in clear air, some commitment. Callum now comes in for soft tyres.
For Callum, he's not going to, at the minute he's not going to score points. He's going to try and go for fastest lap. You never know, if someone makes a mistake, it could pay off for him.
There's only one problem for Callum. He won't actually get the point, and the point will still go elsewhere to Pars.
That's it. Well, obviously, if anyone retires, he would get it though.
No, he wouldn't. Owen's round into the wall. No, Callum wouldn't get it because he's tipped it.
Well, we can all pretend that for one brief evening that he is.
He can have it. He can have it on the screen, but
yeah, that's
in terms of the points and that, unfortunately, you can't claim it. But yeah, Owen, that's going to be into the pits, I suspect, for a new front wing. Well, hopefully not a retirement because he's got points here, no matter what. So hopefully he doesn't retire because he will get points.
Would he still get Pars' pitting? Would he still get points anyway? 90% of the race distance. We are on lap 19, so in theory he could.
Potentially.
I'm just thinking if that would be the case. Pars has gone for soft tyres. I've just been watching Callum. He
needs to complete 20 laps.
Come on, Owen.
So Pars pits for soft. This is a weird strategy from Pars, considering he was going very quickly and catching people.
Yeah.
He has decided to give up bigger points for a single point.
Well, maybe he's thinking he'll have enough of an advantage at the end to get past Madman and Ashtube. I mean, what's the gap at the minute? It's 3 seconds. I mean, he's got the battery on, he's closing the gap, but we will all wait and see what he's like through Le Com.
He's got to take nearly 8 seconds out of Ashtube in what's effectively 4 laps. I mean, it does look like on the softs they are a bit better, although when he starts cutting gravel traps, that's when things get a bit interesting.
Just watching his delta to Madman. Yeah, he is going quicker. Madman's really struggling. He's gone completely off the road. I'm not quite sure. Oh! Goodness me. How did Pars collect that?
It was very, very good save. But it's a great example of what happens when you go offline. And
Ruddo. I mean, surely not. Isn't the gap too much to overcome if you pit now? I think they're losing track position by doing that, personally, Jordan.
They could be, but then they're not, because Matty and Warlander have come in as well.
But they have lost the position to
ARL.
ARL, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So if they come out now, where's Jeremy Clarkson? He's coming out of the pit lane now, and ARL's at the top of Radion. So that's 12 seconds. I don't think at this point in the race, Jordan, that's the right strategy. I think it's too late. I think it
depends, because if this does come up as fully dry and these softs go straight away, you can take a lot of time out of a very warm intermediate tyre.
he'd have to take 4 seconds a lap out of ARL from now until the end, and I'm just not convinced. There's War Islander has a big fight with SFR Matty. War Islander on the soft tyres, Matty on the mediums, and into Lake Om they go in the braking zone, and War Islander is through. We've got some time penalties, some bizarre ones popping up, but I think my theory's right, Jord. I don't think Clarkson's going to catch him.
Not looking at the
Not like that. Definitely not like that through Pouon. Had a huge slide through Pouon and gathered it all up. But I think ARL, it's just got to keep it on circuit. I'm saying nothing. What's happened to Bjorn?
What's happened to Bjorn?
He's got a puncture. He's got a puncture, rear left puncture.
Is this why everyone started pitting?
Sydney's in the pits.
I think it's not necessarily because of conditions, it's because of the tyre wear.
Absolutely shocking.
ARL's continuing.
ARL's carried on. Where's Sydney?
2 laps to go.
He's coming across the start-finish line now. Sydney's still in the pits.
ARL has gone to the lead of this race. He's got 2 laps to go. The question is, will his tyres hold out?
Unbelievable. And Sydney can't get out of the pit lane properly. He's sliding all over the road. Now he gets back on the traction. 6 seconds is it going to be? 6 seconds to glory is it for ARL? Goodness me, when was the last time ARL won a race in IRL? But he's got a puncture, potentially strewn car. Who knows? This is all up in the air.
I'm not going to lie, I'm looking back on ARL's tyres, and okay, I know they're spinning and all that, but they look practically bald.
Wow. So there's only 2 other drivers who've braved it out with him, which is Denmark and Astute. Sydney is coming at a rate of knots.
But even if ARL loses out to Sydney, I don't think he'll lose out to Jeremy. I think he could have potentially just worked his way into 2nd place at a minimum.
If he doesn't get a puncture, that's going to be... Oh, you know ARL's going to throw everything.
You risk it at this point.
Yeah, you know ARL's going to throw everything. That's a McLaren round. It's Callum.
Callum trying to get into the pit lane, and he's having an awful time. Almost Austin Powers, is it?
Yeah, a bit Austin Powers. Sydney, though, I think it's going to be a foregone conclusion. I think Sydney will be breathing a sigh of relief at this, because he can see ARL in the distance. He's going to have to try and do it at one of the corners.
I'm going to say this. I don't normally like to do this, but if you look at the wheel of ARL, you'll probably see what I'm seeing as Astute has a moment at Lafayette.
He's carrying on.
Astute has a puncture rear right.
That's a shame for... Oh, and he's gone big time. Through the right-hander.
Sydney now. 2 tenths to the good. But, as I say, you look at the wheel of ARL, and Jack, you'll probably see what I'm seeing.
I am seeing everything that you're seeing, but the problem that ARL has is quite literally
look at the speed difference.
That's what he's got to try and compete against, and on the final lap, Sydney has sneaked his way back in front, and he'll wipe the sweat off his brow as that happens. And now
that was an interesting line from Sydney. On the curb, on the entry. I'm gonna stay on board with AR because ARL's got a puncture rear left.
Oh no! What a tragedy! ARL went on to the final lap in the lead.
He's got to baby this around. He's still got 4 seconds to Jeremy Clarkson and a lot of battery.
He could get to. It's going to be a question of Denmark's got a puncture as well, Jordan.
Everyone who stayed out, it was worth the risk. Pars is out.
He's binned it.
Oh my word, this is chaos. Jeremy Clarkson gets past into 2nd. Roddo now all over the back of the RB. He's going to get through. Bjorn's going to get through. But ARL spins it around.
On the puncture. Can he get it turned around and going? He can. Where's War Islander? War Islander wouldn't have been thinking about 5th place before. He'll be sniffing it now. I just want to briefly cut back because Sydney has somehow managed to survive all of that. Pitted at the right time. 1 lap Oldworth softs. Who cares about that? He's going to take the race victory. Great result for him. He's got another win. PRS is enabled on the final lap. Useless for everyone. Jeremy and Ruddo take second, but it's going to be Björn actually in third place, I think. There you go. Ruddo in fourth. Now ARL limping along. I think he's going to do it, you know.
It says shades of Sir Spud from China all over again.
He's going to do it.
ARL take a bow, top 5. It was worth the risk. He's still got a top 5.
He's done it. He didn't even need the penalty. ARL 5th, Matty in 6th place, the War Islanders 7th. Denmark survives to 8th with his puncture as well. DJ Madman, he's going to beat a couple of Tier 1 guys. His strategy worked out really nicely for him this evening. He'll get some data to take into Tier 2's race tomorrow. He'll be in 9th place. Ashtube, Callum and Owen are on the other side of the track.
Yeah, I think they all pitted Callum back onto a set of intermediates, which is quite an interesting effort. But Ashtube, I would say he was trying to do fast lap, but I don't think he came in early enough to do that.
No, I don't think he would have. So Pars will be classified. He only just retired on that last lap, so he will get points. He'll get the last of the points paying positions that are open to him, so he will score points for 11th place. So that'll give him 2. That shouldn't be too bad. But Ashtube across the line, he's going to get inside the top 10. Callum, well done Callum, he gets 11th. And Owen, he's got another broken front wing.
He does, but I'm glad he's finished.
Yeah.
That's really good to see, because it's not uncommon for Owen to have some issues and unfortunately retire. But I'm really glad he's finished this one, picked up some points. Good for the team.
Yeah.
Because they are in a constructors' battle with the likes of Sauber and the RB team.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Let's have a look. A couple of people commenting. ARL saying, I had to go for it. Shame didn't work. Just half a lap needed, but it was worth it. That it was. It gave us some unbelievable entertainment at the end. Denmark was delighted despite not having force feedback and the standard setup on his car, which we need to remember, actually, which would have happened. Well done to him.
Yeah, not an easy time when you have a standard car setup. Although sometimes it's not the end of the world, especially if it's a mixed weather race, as we've just had.
Well, Sydney, the race winner, fastest lap going Björn. Driver of the day going to Denmark, according to the game. Owen had the most overtakes, and Sydney was the cleanest driver. But let's just have a look at these provisional race results. It's Sydney in the end on the last lap overtaking ARL for the race win, with Jeremy Clarkson in second position. It worked out no well in the end for Jeremy. Björn in third with Ruddo in fourth. The puncture of ARL put him into fifth. SFR Matty, one of the brave stars earlier on in the race, in sixth, with War Island the seventh. Denmark, another puncturesque drive in eighth, with Madman and Ashtube rounding out the top 10. Callum will be classified in front of Owen, which is a boon for him. Pars also classified despite retiring on the last lap. Nitrogash, imagine if Nitrogash had run through that race. You never know, he might have been on the podium.
You never know, you never know, do you? I mean, that was... I love races like that. Most people don't enjoy driving them, but I do. I think they're brilliant to drive in. Just gives you a little bit of excitement, and the best part about it was all done without DRS. You had to make the overtakes yourself.
Yeah, it was a really great race to watch. That was fantastic, and I'm sure everyone who was watching that live will have had a wonderful time. I mean, you don't get to see that very often on the last lap, a red Pirelli wall tyre overtaking someone on a green wall intermediate. It just doesn't really happen. But I'm delighted to see that it did, and it's really fueled us up for tomorrow, Jordan, which you'll be competing in Tier 2.
Yeah, you get to see me crash and spin.
I'm sure it'll be great.
But yeah, when you say like the red wall overtaking green wall, and some even with no wall.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Someone with the rim wall is probably how we'd phrase that, to be honest with you. But great race tonight. Really enjoyed that. We've got a rotation on commentary next week, haven't we, Jordan? From round 5 onward.
Yes, we do.
So it'll be a little bit different from the norm. So what we'll have is Maras and Madman back for round 5. They'll be commentating on round 5, 6, and 7 with an alternation between me and Jordan, and then me and Jordan will be back for round 8, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm sad we're halfway through the season already.
Yeah, it's not a big season, but it promotes consistency and drivers turning up, because ultimately with 8 races, every point counts in this championship. You can't have a 0 score. It's very hard to come back from that.
Yeah, no, it will cost you quite a lot, and I'm sure the drivers will be fully aware of that. From round 5, Jordan will be taking the lead role for round 5. I'll be back for round 6, then it'll be Jordan for round 7, myself, and then Jordan, like I said before, aforementioned, for round number 8. And we get to see the commentary talents of Madman and Maris in for the evening. I'm sure that'll be great fun. But anything else you want to say, George, before we finish up?
Well, I thought I might just run through the second half of the calendar as a bit of a reminder for everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's been 4 races since we sort of worked through it. Obviously, next week we head to COTA and the Austin circuit of the Americas. A bit of an interesting one, a mixed reaction between drivers, that one, but should be an interesting race. Jack, you'll be commentating around Qatar in Lusail.
That'll be fun.
I've never driven that circuit, so I've got to get some practice into that one. And then we'll have the second sprint evening at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix around the streets of Baku. Always throws up some form of camaraderie, shall we say. Always causes a bit of fun with the drivers. And then myself and Jack will be commentating together for the finale, and we hope what will be a final race decider at the home of British motor racing, Silverstone.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one, especially back in the UK for the final race of the season. But from all of us here at Invictus Racing League, thank you very much for watching. Do tune in for Tier 2 tomorrow night with commentary from ARL and Björn, who are both racing this evening. But from Jordan, it's good night.
Good night.
And from me, Jack TM53, thank you very much for watching. Wherever it might be in the big wide world, have a good one, and we'll see you tomorrow for Tier 2 action.